I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Here.
Mrs. Croft?
Here.
Mr. Elick?
Here.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Here.
Mrs. Carpus?
Here. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this nice evening, finally, a nice evening out there. I'd like to introduce our board members. All the way to my right, I have Greg Elick. My immediate right, Michael Gebhardt. To my left, our newest member, Jim Bax, Miss Annie Croft, and our superintendent, Paul Rigda, and our treasurer, Katie Hennis. Again, thank you for joining us this evening. Do we have any board recognition this evening?
No, Madam President, we do not.
Any presentations?
No, we do not.
We do not. We will move to our visitors' comments. And at this place on the agenda, we have set aside, the board does encourage citizens to distribute or to display interest in the meetings of the Board of Education and to address the board when they wish to do so. The board has made accommodations to allow for public participation. People that wish to address the board on the night of the meeting need to sign up, and they have up to 5 minutes to address the board. And they need to, on the sign-up sheet, indicate the topic that they wish to address the board concerning. If they need additional time, they're asked at least 1 week in advance to put in a written request to the treasurer's office, again, to identify the reason that they wish to address the board, and then they will have up to 15 minutes to address the board. I would ask at this time, do we have anyone that signed up this evening?
No.
Okay, we do not. It is the intent of the board this evening to employ Don McCready. And we have this, at this point, and excuse me, I'm looking for my item here on my agenda.
Where she occurs?
Yes, please.
Yes, she's
I'm sorry, it's item L2. But to reemploy Don McCready as our Special Education Pupil Services Director. And we'd like to provide this opportunity, if there is anyone here this evening that wishes to address the board regarding the reemployment, has any comments, any concerns, or wishes to address the board, I would ask that if you would please step forward and identify yourself at the mic with your name and address. Do we have anyone here this evening that wishes to address the board? Hearing none, we will move to the next agenda item. Board member discussion items. Board, are there any items to be brought forward this evening for discussion that are not under our board reports? Hearing none, we'll move to our meeting minutes. Approval of the meetings. The minutes, I would ask for a motion for the board to approve the Board of Education record of proceedings for the meeting of May 20th as presented.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Elick, seconded by Mr. Gebhardt. Any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Croft? Aye. Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mrs. Carpus?
Aye. Motion carries. Treasurer action items, Ms. Hennis.
Yes, thank you very much. The first item is to acknowledge, express appreciation, and accept the following gifts and donations. Ely Pride Parent Group donated $2,306 to the principal's account, and that donation will be used for new playground equipment at Ely School. Sunnyside Automotive Group donated $500 to the Special Olympics. Playhouse Square donated 2 classroom area rugs valued at $500 to the third grade classroom at Crestwood Elementary, and that donation will be used for instruction and a stage during dramatic art lessons. The Elyria Rotary Club presented a donation of $2,500 to the Special Education Department at Windsor Elementary, and they will purchase a Logan Prox Talker assistive technology, and that will be used to assist students who need a communication device. Parker Hannafin Corporation donated $1,000, and that will be used for the Elyria High School Scholarship Fund. And Brian Balzer donated $500 to the athletic department for the second annual Brian Balzer Scholarship Fund. The second item this evening is to approve the attached list of purchase orders to comply with the district's purchasing procedures as detailed in enclosure G2. And that is all for that section this evening.
May I have a motion to approve the items as recommended by the treasurer and presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gebhardt, seconded by Ms. Croft. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Croft?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mrs. Carpus?
Aye. Motion carries. Ms. Hennis?
Yes. I'm very pleased to bring this item to you tonight. It's to adopt the school district board resolution requesting that the Ohio Schools Facilities Commission to establish the new scope, estimated basic project cost, and local share in the classroom facilities assistance program as detailed in enclosure H1. And this resolution will allow the OSFC to start the process of the study on the master plan about how many buildings, costs, give them permission to start that entire process. We met with them last week. Mr. Elick was there, so I'm sure he'll be giving a report to you about what we discussed, so. that's what that-
Do I have a,
Until.
Or not.
Sometime.
sometime in the future, do I have a motion to approve the item as recommended by the treasurer?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Elick and seconded by Mr. Gebhardt, and if I'm correct, this is at no expense to the district.
Correct, at this
Thank
point.
you. Okay, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Croft?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mrs. Carpus?
Aye, motion carries. Treasurer's report?
I have
Any
nothing else
items?
this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Rigda, superintendent's report?
Okay, thank you,
Or,
Madam.
I'm sorry, action items. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, item number one, the request from Academic Services to request your approval of stipends. These stipends actually are flow-through monies that come from the different universities, as you can see from the bullet items, from Ashland, Kent State, Baldwin Wallace. These are for our teachers who would oversee and had overseen the student teachers and the work that they did and were mentors. And this is the way that they can receive their funds now, kind of flowing from the universities through the school district to eventually the teacher. A stipend for the math pilot training program for those folks that are listed. The next bullet has one of our acronyms in it. It talks about a stipend to staff members for a training for a 3-day web program in the middle schools. That's the 6th grade orientation program. And just to remind the board, because I know we have new board members, so with some it's a reminder and some it would be new. We have the link crew at the high school, and the link crew are older students that help the younger students when they transition into the high school as freshmen, and then they oversee their socialization and find their way around and all those really good things that are important when nervous children come to school. The middle school, when we added the 6th grade to the middle school, it was just a short time later that they formed the WEB crew. And WEB is an acronym for Where Everyone Belongs. And it's the same concept as the Link crew. They engage these 6th graders as they come into middle school. They welcome them to the building. They make them feel comfortable and relaxed and help them find classrooms in different areas of the building and become their big brothers and sisters, so to speak. So that's what that is. Moving on, there's a stipend for Elyria University training for an individual there where you're usually seeing the name Charlie Rudd. And one of our very, very successful middle school teachers, Cindy Tobel, is going to assume that responsibility beginning next year. That'll be her teaching assignment, as it was Mr. Rudd's assignment for all those years when he left the classroom, and that is to teach the teachers all of the technologies so that they could use it in the classroom. But the school year isn't where all of the education takes place, that the teachers are very hungry for this information. It's also an opportunity for many of them from time to time to earn contact hours and even college credit. So they do this year-round, and there's even online courses, and this is her pay for doing all of that extra work above and beyond her teaching contract. And down in the future, this would be above and beyond her daily contract. Number 2 is to request your approval of stipends for pupil services. As you've probably heard, the longer you've been on the board, you understand that special education is an IEP, individual education plan approach, and that doesn't necessarily follow our traditional school year. We're in session for 180 days, and if they can get their work done in 180 days, then so be it. If they're not done, or they're in danger of a significant regression and ultimate recoupment, then they continue on into the summer, and that's called extended school year. That could be in the form of classrooms and camps. It's determined at an IEP conference, and we would be paying these individuals to conduct that instruction to students that were identified that needed extended school year. The next bullet is positive behavior intervention supports. These are all acronyms that are all in the law. PBIS, and those teachers are learning some strategies that they can share then with their colleagues as well, as far as interventions when students are not behaving as we might want them to behave, and obviously alternatives to disciplining students. The next one are student growth measures. By the standards, and there's a group of teachers that are going to be paid that amount per day, not to exceed 5 days. And student growth measures, when you see it in the paper, you see them referred to as SGMs. So probably do need a bit of a program to follow all the little acronyms that come along the way. Pupil Services would also like to enter into a contract again. This is not new. We use suburban school transportation for transportation of special needs students who can't handle the bus ride. Non-resident children that come to us and they have disabilities, we charge back not only the money that we get for a traditional student, which would be $5,700 as students move from district to district, but because they have special needs, it costs more. We track the costs. They're called excess costs, and this is an agreement to charge the districts that send us students. The districts don't necessarily send them. They could have been court-placed or a variety of other reasons why they wind up with us, as do our kids wind up elsewhere, and then we pay other districts for our special needs students if they have to educate them. We have let's see, got past that, overnight, I believe, field trip. And number 5, the basketball team would like to go to a basketball camp at Hiram College later this month. The food service program is finding it necessary, and I think we can all relate to this if we've been to the grocery store lately, that food is costing more. Droughts and vegetables and fruits tend to be more on the expensive side. And it's kind of amazing that it's only a 5% weighted average, which means that any of the a la carte items that students can buy will go up 5% on the average. Milk will stay the same, though, at 55 cents. And the student lunch that had been $2.75 will go to $2.80. There is no effect on the reduced lunch. We have free lunch for families who can't afford to pay any of their lunch fee, and then we have reduced lunches. Those figures are set by the state, and they will remain the same for next year. The next bullet's related to Sodexo again, and that's that every year we need to agree that you want to continue with them. You enter into a 5-year agreement, but it's renewed annually. And there is one minor little tweak that they're going to do in the contract, and that's why you see the word amendment. It does not amount to anything that will cost the district at all, and it just requires your approval to proceed with Sodexo into next year. Number 8 is a purchase order by Academic Services through Information Technology as well. They're coming together to purchase 856 Chromebooks, 28 carts for them to be placed on for an amount not to exceed what you see there. A very generous donation of, I can't remember if it was $12,000 or $15,000 was also received towards this from Ridge Tool, again, that partner that keeps showing up for us. And with that, I conclude.
We'll entertain a motion to approve the items as recommended by the superintendent and as presented.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gebhardt, a second by Mr. Bax. I did have a question, and maybe I'm, in item 6, where authorize and approve the implementation of a 5-cent weighted
That was my
average price.
question, yeah.
If, I was hearing 5%,
Yeah, you were saying
and I'm reading
percent,
5
5
cents
cents.
weighted average.
Yeah, that's how they write it, a 5-cent weighted average. I said percent, and I believe it's a 5-cent.
Well, the lunch meal is going up 5 cents.
Right.
275 to 280.
Okay,
The à la carte is going to go up 5%. So if it's $1 item like an ice cream, it goes up 5 cents. So it's percent. So if it's 50 cents, it'll go up 2.5 cents. That's why it's weighted.
oh,
It's-
okay.
It's percent.
Thank you, thank you,
I had the
Thank you.
same question.
thank you. Okay, so the
Yeah, so
5
did I.
cent.
We talked about this for a couple
Okay.
weeks now. Apparently, this is how this has been worded for a couple of different renewals, but I suppose it's 5 cents or 5%, depending on how it's applied. 5 cents in the case of the meal, and 5% in the case of the à la carte.
Okay. Thank you, I just
No,
wanted to understand that.
No, we've all had
Okay.
a bit in that discussion prior to today. How does this work exactly?
Okay, thank you, I
No,
appreciate
you're
that.
welcome.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I
or
have a
comments,
question,
please?
Paul. On the excess costs
Yes,
charged to the other schools for the disabilities,
yes.
are those monies that they receive from the state or the federal government, or is that just something that school district has to come up with on its own?
Yes and no on that. Students are rated by the degree of their disability by the state, and additional monies are sent to them to cover that. And they can apply that money. Don, I'm going to ask you to correct me if I make a mistake, because I used to do this, but it's been a while back. They can apply that money towards our bill. Does that amount of money that they get in addition to the normal base amount that we receive from the state cover the excess costs? Usually not.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering.
It typically costs more, in every case, to educate a child than what the state will send you. But they do recognize that special needs students can cost more depending on the degree of their disability. The more disabled they are, the more you get. There is a formula, and I may get into trouble by trying to explain this, called catastrophic spending, which means the money that you're spending for the student greatly exceeds what the state would send you in additional funds. And we can make a claim on that, of which we get a percentage. A portion. You never make it whole.
Okay.
But, for example, we have had cases, and our public should be reminded of that from time to time, where this board has to pay $80,000 to send an autistic child to the Cleveland Clinic because their neurologist said their program's better than ours. There's no way you're going to get that kind of money from the
Sure.
state.
Oh.
So that would fall into catastrophic spending, and I believe that kicks in about $29,000 or $30,000-ish.
It depends, there's a pot of money and then it's prorated based on the claims that you submit in the year.
I
So
see.
It's hard to tell. It's a mystery.
Oh, okay.
But the part that's not a mystery, they're not covering it. They're helping.
Okay.
They're contributing to your excess costs, but they're not covering it. So they make allowances depending on how severe the disability is, and they tier it, and it's categorical. They call it categories by different, depends on the disability. And then there's, on top of that, an opportunity to apply for categorical aid. And as the treasurer just said, there's a pot of money, and I don't know if Mr. Kasich doubled the pot like he said he was or not? I wouldn't have heard.
It's in the proposal.
Did
It's-
he do that?
It's grown substantially over the years.
Yeah. But again, they typically don't have enough to cover.
No.
We make,
Nowhere
we
near.
school districts make more claims than what's in the pot.
Sure. Is there a guesstimate on like half of it you can get from the state, or is it not that simple on how we're paying on this, or?
Since the expenditures are relative to the disability and the amount of time, it may come out to half sometimes.
Okay.
But in the $80,000 case, no way.
Right, okay.
Does that
I was
say-
just curious on that, yeah.
Depends on the disability and a lot of other factors.
How high the costs were.
Yeah, and the state is making it more and more difficult when they do the formula down in Columbus to, really make sense of what does this money mean? How much, what percentage is it? They make it very difficult to figure out.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's only in recent years. It used to be much more clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it happen very often?
Yes,
Oh,
every
yeah,
year.
A lot,
We do it every year.
yeah.
Because we have for example, students with extreme special needs going to the former Erie School, Education Alternatives, or the Positive Education Program in Cleveland. The least they charge is $30,000
Oh, wow. Okay.
for one child, 1 year. And why would we send these children to those facilities? They're very separate and very away from the mainstream, because to educate them in the mainstream would possibly be dangerous to the child and to other children around them, very disruptive to children around them or themselves, or the strategies that they need are so significant that you can't address that in a traditional school. So those decisions are made with the child in mind, of course, and always with a cost factor associated with it. And if you're going to ask me how many are there,
Between positive education program, 2, sometimes 3 sites, kids move in and out, and also educational alternatives, I believe it's about 30. And again, often these students are transient, so they're moving in and out, so it's not
Mhm.
always the same during the year.
it's very expensive.
It costs a lot of money for them to operate the program because they have counselors on staff and a lot of paraprofessionals, highly trained teachers, lots of training that has to go on all year long.
Very small
Summer
class sizes.
programs, so it's expensive for them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. All right, thanks.
Okay.
So
Good
one
question.
other quick question. The cards for the Chromebooks, what kind of cards are those? Are they,
Brian would be able to answer that.
'cause
What kind of carts?
are the Chromebooks like,
They hold a couple dozen, maybe?
They'll hold 32,
32.
and they're
Oh,
specialized
okay,
cards
it's
for
the holding number.
laptops and
Okay,
Chromebooks.
I'm thinking, what do we need a
Roll
card for
out,
one little Chromebook for? Now I see.
We decided to go with the
They have chargers,
watch gold-plated.
The Gucci Chrome?
Yes.
They have chargers built into the back so they
I
can charge
see.
30 devices
That-
simultaneously.
That makes sense. Okay,
Yeah, for
great.
This way they
classrooms.
can move from class to class.
Oh,
very
okay.
easily.
It's like a
Super.
mobile lab. Think of it as
Okay.
a mobile lab.
I see. Okay, great, thank you.
Great questions. No, that's wonderful.
Paul, on item 3,
Okay.
on the contract with Suburban School Transportation, will they be replacing First Student?
No.
Is
no.
that how
This-
that works?
This is an alternative. You mean replacing them just for those children? This is a handful of children that usually due to, again, some debilitating issue, cannot be managed on a school bus. Not uncommon to be behavior. It could be some other issues, but behavior probably being the most frequent. And then they contract so that there isn't a whole busload of kids, that it's
Okay.
just a handful of kids. This is not to replace,
This is a limited...
this is very limited. It's
Okay.
it's a special alternative transportation.
Thank you.
Have used cabs in the past. With all due respect to cabs and cab drivers, they're not prepared, as these individuals are, to handle issues on the road. on the road is a dangerous thing when a child's misbehaving in a vehicle. And we're trying to get the child, we understand that he has special needs, but we have to get him from home to us. Sometimes parents will bring them because they don't want the child anywhere but with them. Sometimes that's not possible for the family, so we bring him in that way. It's getting the child to us in a special manner.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Nope, thanks. Thank you.
Hearing
you.
none, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Croft?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mrs. Carpus?
Aye. Motion carries. Superintendent Other?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is the time of the year that, or it's the time in the contract, I believe, not in the time of the year, for us to renew our insurance contract with Allen Thorley Deloitte. And the figure there is the premium for 1 year. And the period of time is listed as July through June of next year. So if it's the board's pleasure to stay with this company, I would need a resolution to keep them on board with us. They've been on board with the school district since before I became superintendent. I couldn't say how long, but a long time.
Do I have a motion to approve the item as recommended and presented by the superintendent?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Elick, seconded by Ms. Croft. Are there any comments or questions?
A question, is this been reviewed by legal counsel, the insurance, or no?
That I'm not sure.
I've never.
I don't think so.
There
It's,
were no changes, right?
it's,
There were no changes to the policy besides.
I think there's one change that went up like $7,000 because the stadium visitors bleachers don't have backs on them so that a child could slip through. Business Services is correcting that, putting flat panels on the back of each step so that a child can't fall through. And when that occurs, they're going to take that premium off, that extra cost off. Am I correct on that, as you understand that?
So bottoms on all the bleachers over there?
Backs,
Bleachers, we need to get some 16-foot panels.
Oh, the back.
between the
okay.
steps.
So
Like if
so
a little
you
child
can't go
maybe
if you
fall
lean
around.
back, if they lean back, they can't fall between from step to step.
Okay, is that on all of them, or just a section?
The entire column.
Okay.
What we were gonna use,
Ms. Croft, are you on that committee?
to close those off.
That's a different
That's a different.
Thank you. Okay, just checking.
health insurance.
No, that's different.
Okay. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Croft?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Abstain.
Mrs. Carpus?
Aye. Motion carries with 4 aye votes and 1 abstention. Personnel items?
Okay, moving on to personnel. Does your board report, your board agenda show a 7/27/15 on item number 1 as far as effective date of resignation?
I show 7:31.
Good, so they got updated, okay. We talked about that at cabinet, I just wanted to make sure that you would understand that. There's a reason for that. We were coming back earlier, we're not now. The administrators will come back in August. She thought that she would have to put that date before the others were coming back, and that's why the change.
Okay.
Okay? Bottom line is she's still going. She's resigning her position. She's moving out to the West Coast. And she will be missed. She's done a nice job.
Absolutely.
She's done a very nice job. Item number 2 is to request your approval for the reemployment of Dawn McCready as our special ed pupil services director for a period of 1 year. Item number 3 is to request your approval of the appointment of certified staff to teach summer school for the elementary this year. Item number 4 is to appoint an administrator who is our current principal at Franklin Elementary to be the summer school principal for the summer. Number 5, summer counselors. You'll see a variance there in the period of time that they work. They get extended time, but they also get backed up if they don't work a little bit during the summer because people move in during the summer. And if everybody that moves in to the high school, that is, during the summer, expects a schedule, the day everybody comes back, it creates a mess. So they keep up with the enrollments this way. You will find one has a different date, and that's because she's retiring. One ends June 30, the other July 24. Okay? A retirement of a classified individual as listed, a longtime special education paraprofessional, and she has done a wonderful job from what I've heard from anybody that has worked with her. Another one leaving from classified, but in the form of a resignation, not a retirement, in number 7. Number 8 are a variety of classified substitutes, and you'll also find that there's a internship, and they're at Elyria High, and these are students who are trying this out. They're working with Mr. Kokai, getting summer work done as you hire summer help, and then they'll learn about information technologies this summer, working on the installations of computers and these Chromebooks. They have to be programmed, and software has to be taken on and off of things, and it's a great way to not only get help, but teach kids how this stuff works. Game workers, only one in number 9. Number 10, our newest member, student member to work in the Performing Arts Center. And of course, they only get paid the $12.50 if it's an outside contract. Inside all of our schools, all of our own choir, band, orchestra performances are not paid. They get credit for that. They get flex credit towards their diploma for that. But when we rent it out, and part of the charges of renting it out, that's the only time they get paid. They can't get paid when we rent it out if they haven't worked the inside gratis jobs. And that concludes again.
Do I have a motion to approve the personnel items as recommended by the superintendent and presented?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Gebhardt, seconded by Mr. Elick. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Croft?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mrs. Carpus?
Aye. Motion carries.
I have no additional personnel, nor anything to report to you that I haven't already told you.
Okay, thank you. Board of Education reports. Mr. Elick, do you have a short report for us on the
It was a
Facilities
wonderful
Commission?
graduation, and my eyes were dry the whole time, and I got to hand my son his diploma and give him a big hug, so it was a wonderful night. Really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun to be a part of the process, so it was great. I really enjoyed it, so something I'll remember for the rest of my life, so.
It was a wonderful night. Ended up, I think, being just, is the temperature just right?
I was a little nervous during the day when I looked out my window and it was raining, thinking, boy, who's making this call? And then,
We weren't nervous
blue
at all.
skies.
We owe a gratitude to Mrs. Carpus and her husband, Mr. Carpus, who has access to some sophisticated equipment that even though it was pouring down rain, we had the guts to send out an alert now message saying the show is going on. And we were assured that come 5 o'clock, sunshine and roses would
Oh,
occur.
you were sure?
And if they didn't, it would be shortly thereafter. Are we sure about that? And the answer was no, not at all. But we are predicting the weather here when we're watching wind patterns and weather patterns, and I believe by 5:30, 5:45, it is supposed to be past us. And for the remainder of the program, we should not be in danger. We looked ahead to Saturday. It looked miserable. Sunday looked terrible. We would have had to go to Monday. And thank God for Doppler or whatever in the world you guys use to, whatever those screens are that you use. I wish I'd have paid more attention to math when I was in high school, but they really did a nice job with that, and honestly, it was like magic. To sit there, I just kept looking up, thinking, how is this possible? But there was much fretting all day, I assure you.
Would we want
Much
to
hand-wringing.
consider
all day.
keeping him on retainer for graduations and making those calls?
This isn't his first rodeo. We were in the stadium one year, and he was telling us to get out of the stadium one year because there was nonsense on the way that was not going to be pretty. And we ran about the fastest graduation
Oh, my
possible
goodness.
that year. Speeches were cut, songs were shortened, and we got out of there and it hit.
Wow.
So the people that keep planes in the air know what they're doing. They should do the weather, really, on TV, not these others who I think know about as much
It's a
as I
great
do
night.
sometimes. It's a great night, wasn't it?
Next, my turn.
And we were in board report, so I had just asked if you have just a short report on OSFC, just to tell us you met. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I will get to you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, the process began, and I think Paul sort of summarized in his letter, and it's an exciting time for the district, the ability to, as of now, pay for one school and get two free. So, I mean, that's kind of our starting point, and there's a lot of work to be done, and we'll follow up on Paul's email, but it is an exciting time for the district, and looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Gebhardt?
I just wanted to mention about graduation. I thought it was perfect. It was an hour and a half. I keep hearing all these horror stories about schools with half our size going 2 hours or more. I think the staff did a great job. I don't think you could do any better. And finally, I'd like to say something about Ann Schloss. We were at a local restaurant a couple weeks ago, and she gave the Heimlich on some lady, and I think she saved her life.
Wow.
So that was impressive.
Second time.
Well, she wore a red dress, so she was...
Everyone wants to eat with me now.
At least have you at a table nearby, right?
It's on the menu this evening.
And we're not going to mention the restaurant.
That's right.
We don't know what that might say about the chicken, so we're not going to mention the restaurant either. Mr. Bax?
Yeah, I will concur with Mr. Elick and Mr. Gephardt on the graduation ceremony. It was great. That was the first one that I had ever participated in like that, and I was so thankful that Ann was there to hand me the documents, and I didn't drop one, which was great. So that, I enjoyed that and thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you.
Ms. Clapp?
I thought it was wonderful. My son graduated, and I was excited to hand him his diploma.
Maybe ask the dry eye question, or?
No, it was not dry. No. Yes, it was beautiful, though. Yes.
It really was, and you have to say, you hear about some of the behavior at other schools, not near the size or not near, and oftentimes you hear comments out there about being an urban district and things, and really very well behaved, very, I think that it really makes a difference when they give it the decorum and the respect, because it's a lot of hard, it's hard work. It's a culmination of a career. It's their school, career. And I think that they did a great job. That was a great picture in the paper where the coming together, the theme of coming together and the togetherness. And I just think it was a great evening, and it was very much in line with how deserving those students are, the work they put in, the staff, everyone, to make not only that event, but to make that high school experience so special for those students, and the parents and the people that came are able to hear the names. They talk about that. They get told that please be, respectful, and it just went off very great, well planned, well executed, and very much appreciated by everyone in the community. Thank you.
Also, I'll add, if you haven't had a chance to look at this, This is a really nice, they did a really nice job on this, and it is.
You have to tell them what it is.
Pardon me?
When you say this, you have to tell them what it is.
The EHS Herald presents the Super Seniors for 2015. And that is it is a really well-done booklet, and hats off to who put this together. This
It's
is
very
great.
well done. They were given out at graduation, and I would
It's
just,
a partnership between the staff at Elyria High School and Amy's office and the kids, and it's just looking to make things awesome.
I was going to say a lot of thank yous, I'm sure, that go into this, but it's a very nice keepsake and remembrance, and very professionally done. Speaks very well for our communications department, for the staff and all the work that's done. When you put something out like this, that tells you why those students are proud, and the parents and the families are proud to see them graduate from Elyria. Absolutely. Were any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for a request for an executive session to discuss the employment, appointment, or compensation of a public employee or official with possible action to follow as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22.
So moved.
Second.
I have moved by Ms. Croft, seconded by Mr. Gebhardt. I don't think we need to call.
With action to follow?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Action to
You said-
follow?
No, and I'm sorry, it's written with possible action to
okay.
follow. It's the way that it's written, in case there was any that needed to, was written with possible action to follow. But we do not anticipate, there's with possible action to follow, but for those of you that are here this evening, we do not anticipate coming out and having any action this evening. So you'll know. Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mrs. Croft?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mrs. Carpus?
Aye. Motion carries. We will adjourn into executive session.